Hi, everybody. Thank you for those of you who were able to join us. Sandag is remote, and so we have a few people who are in the office helping to facilitate this, and you can see a few of us who are home. I am Dr. Cindy Burke, the Senior Director of Data Science here at Sandag, and I'm joined with some other colleagues from Sandag. Cindy Frierson, Cesar Sanchez, and our Director of Criminal Justice Research, as you can see, Octavio. We're supposed to have Spanish translators online for this, and if you don't speak English, you do not understand what I'm saying. So Octavio is going to translate about our situation right now, and then we'll go back to providing an overview.
Thank you, Cindy. Muchas gracias a todos. Un saludo a todos los participantes que nos acompañan el día de hoy. La doctora Cindy Burke mencionaba que por algunos problemas logísticos, el día de hoy no vamos a tener interpretación simultánea a español. Les pedimos una disculpa al respecto. Sin embargo, si ustedes quisieran hacer algún comentario respecto a los temas que se van a discutir el día de hoy, por favor, les pedimos que los comenten y que los hagan en español. Nosotros nos encargaremos de les agradecemos mucho por su comprensión y esperemos contar con ustedes en próximas ocasiones. Thank you, Cindy.
Thank you. So again, thank you for joining us. We really want to give ample opportunity for the community to share their views about the alternatives to incarceration project that we're working on with the county. I'm going to be taking a few moments right now to provide an overview of the project for people who may not be familiar with the effort, and then we are going to be opening it up for public comment, and I'll be sharing some information about how that will work once we get to the end of the presentation. So this study came about during the pandemic. Jail numbers drastically decreased. As you can see, prior to the pandemic, there was about an average monthly number of bookings of just over 6,600 individuals booked into our local jails. And during COVID, that dropped to just over 3,800. The Board of Supervisors, the San Diego County Board of Supervisors, seeing this trend, wanted to further investigate this and say, and see if we could, as a community, invest in alternatives to incarceration and look at individuals' underlying needs to be able to address those needs outside of custody while still maintaining public safety. We identified a number of policy drivers of what led to those decreased numbers in jail. And just to kind of provide an overview, those included courts being closed, individuals being released early from jail, changes in bail amounts, modified booking criteria, changes in probation supervision, no transfer of local inmates to state custody, as well as just because of the pandemic, there being reduced opportunity to commit a crime, as well as identify criminal activity when there was potentially less proactive law enforcement activity going on. There were 4 main research goals, and this was outlined in our scope of work with the county when the county put out the request for proposals that Sandag applied for and responded to. It was our Criminal Justice Research Division that's been doing research in San Diego County since 1980. There were some very specific goals that needed to be identified, and I wanted to highlight those and share these with everyone here tonight because we do have a very specific scope of work. And we have an advisory group and a working group that I'll be sharing some more information on, but we just really want to have some very clear expectations about what the scope of the project is. With that said, we also want to give the community feedback because we are able to offer recommendations for either future research or other areas of opportunity that the community would like to see us delve into. So highlighting with research goal 1, the real goal was to provide a data-driven analysis, not something that's subjective. They really wanted to say, what does the data say about how the use of jails changed pre-COVID versus during COVID, with a focus on identifying policy interventions. This isn't just going to be an exercise in looking at data and putting it on a report that's going into a shelf. It's really trying to identify what recommendations would come from these data and the community input that would effectively, safely, and permanently reduce San Diego County jail populations. The second goal was identifying those policy drivers, as I highlighted before, the 7 that were tied to those reduced incarceration rates. Conduct a population sub-analysis by demographics and geography to look at who was affected by those changes. Analyze public safety outcomes associated with those changes, and recommend policy changes to safely and permanently, again, reduce jail populations while still protecting public safety. The third research goal related to developing a set of comprehensive recommendations for both short and long-term actions and investments to expand access to alternatives to incarceration for justice-involved individuals who do not pose a public safety threat. And the last research question we were asked to answer was to analyze the cost savings and long-term fiscal impacts to public safety group departments, health and human services, and other aspects of county operations by shifting the county approach to public safety to prioritize safety through services and evidence-based alternatives to incarceration. So how we're doing that, it's about a year-long project is first, we, and this was reported to the Board of Supervisors in May, and our initial interim report was analyzing jail population data, and that entailed looking at who was booked into jails for what types of charges, understanding their length of stay. The second part is understanding who has continued contact with the justice system, and this is a research task that we're in the process of starting up. We're looking at all the individuals who could have been booked for a low-level offense during COVID, but weren't booked, and understanding what was their level of ongoing contact with the justice system during the year following. We're also going to be documenting service needs, availability, gaps, and barriers. And through this process, we are going to be looking at the needs of justice-involved individuals, looking at the services that are funded by the county around the region, try to do a needs assessment, and then also supplement that with data from the community survey that we just finished, as well as hopefully from these forums. We are also going to be doing a best practices analysis, trying to look both locally across the state, the country, and internationally, what are proven and promising programs that we may want to implement or expand. Excuse me. And then finally, we're going to be doing a cost analysis for 1, 5, 10, and 20 years out, looking, excuse me again, if the traditional current system was in place, what would be the cost of the county versus investing in alternatives to incarceration that would involve investing in certain programs and not in the just detaining and providing services in jail. Underlying all of these research efforts, though, is community engagement and feedback. We have formed an ATI advisory group. We had 88 individuals apply, and this is a picture of some of the individuals, the names of the 14 individuals who have graciously dedicated time to this project. We've had 2 meetings and we'll be meeting again in July. Many of them have lived experience or work with the community in different ways, and some of them may be on this phone call tonight, but we're grateful for their input in helping us to guide this project. We also have a working group that's made up of public safety stakeholders. Many of you may have taken advantage of our opportunity to do a survey that was online. We were able to extend it into June, and we got over 2,000 surveys, with many from individuals who do have family members who've been incarcerated or do have prior experience themselves of being detained or in the justice system. And we're currently in the process of evaluating those surveys and preparing a report by the end of July that will be submitted to the county. And so for our next steps, we are anticipating being done with this project with our recommendations and a final report in early 2023. As I noted, we are finishing our analysis of the community surveys. We'll be holding 4 community forums this month and next. This is our very first forum, and we'll have 3 more coming up in the next couple of weeks, finishing that compilation of information on best practices, understanding ongoing justice system contact with individuals, doing our gap analysis of services, and then conducting our our cost study. So what we were hoping to do today is really giving the community a chance to provide feedback. We've made that a priority through this project. You can go to our website, which is www.sandag.org /ATI study. You can provide input there. You can also email us if you have any information that you'd like to share on the study. And we also have a form that can be submitted at any time, and that feedback will be compiled and shared with the county. Again, tonight, we wanted to put out some specific questions we were hoping to get your feedback on to guide the discussion. We'll be taking these down because we're going to have a timer up. But if you could just maybe think about what you'd like to share with us, we really are hoping to get some information about greatest gaps in services that you are aware of. If there's barriers to receive services, either you've personally experienced or you know somebody else has. How are there ways to encourage treatment that may be voluntary as opposed to court ordered? If you have the public safety concerns you'd like to share with us in your community. And again, this will all be fed back up to the Board of Supervisors as well as our advisory group and the working group. If you know of any policies or programs that are effective alternatives to incarceration the county should be aware of. And then finally, if something's working well, that you'd like to make a note of that for the county, either if it's a public safety system or service delivery. So we're about at 5:45. We wanted to have about 15 minutes for this project introduction, just to give you some context, some housekeeping issues. I'm not sure how many participants we have on right now, but we do want to make sure that everyone has a chance to speak. So we are asking people to be limited to 3 minutes. We'll ask you to, Cesar, I'm guessing, to ask people to raise their hand, and you'll be turning them on so that they can participate and share their feedback. The timer will be on the screen. As you may have seen when we started, we are taping this and it will be posted to our ATI website. And we just ask that everybody be, respectful and courteous in the comments, because this is live and this is a community forum, and we want to have a robust but a politeful and open discussion where people can share their honest and candid views, but in a way that is respectful to all who may be on this phone call. If you turned in late, we did have some challenges with the translation services tonight. If you raise your hand and due to our Spanish speaker, we can provide some on the spot services for that. And we will have those Spanish translation services available at the next 3 forums that we're having. So with that said, I'm going to stop sharing, and I see we have at least one person. So I will, it looks like Jerry Hall has his hand raised to share a comment. So Cesar, are you ready to go? And Mr. Hall, we're excited to have you share your thoughts with us once we get that slide up and going.
Okay, great. Thank you. I'm assuming you can hear me?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Well, I have a couple points to bring up, and I believe they're related, and I'm going to leave that for you to discern. But the first one is that the county agencies, because the way we have siloed funding systems, are not incentivized to spend money to lower recidivism rates, for instance. So the behavioral health services probably has some great programs. I know they do. As a matter of fact, has InReach and the veterans programs that work tremendous and help lower recidivism, but they're not financially incentivized to do that. If they spend that money, the return doesn't come to them. The return comes to the state courts or the state prisons and to the sheriff's office. So if behavioral health spends $1 million and the sheriff saves $5 million, that doesn't really help BHS. And so I think we need to come up with a way to blend those funds, including, working with the funding sources and finding out ways that we can incentivize departments to be innovative and help the work that we're doing, rather than just stay away because they're not financially incentivized. The second point is that without data, we're all flying blind, especially the public. And without knowing, for instance, the DA intake data and the plea bargain data and who's taking what offers and and the crime data, the NIBRS data that we're seeing, the arrest records, and citations. So when somebody's getting a citation or an arrest, we don't see that data usually ever. So my point is that without data, the public, without timely data that's de-identified and geocoded so that we can use it and available in bulk, we're really relying on the county to make all the decisions and have all the insight, and it's tough for the public to gain trust in the system when we're basically locked out of the data. So if we could include, and be sure to include that, that the public be allowed access to timely, de-identified, thorough data, and that we aren't limited by technological constraints. Like when you go do a crime map, you're limited to 1,000 records. That's or for 90 days. That's not helpful. So we can make more informed contributions if we were more informed, and we don't really want to bug you to get the data just to do that work. So thank you very much. I appreciate your work.
Thank you so much, Mr. Hall. If there were any other points, we'll see. Right now we have 16 attendees on. I don't see any other hands raised, but I'm hoping that someone else will want to share. But we could definitely go around and give people multiple opportunities if they didn't get a chance if there is more time. Do we have anybody else who's on the call who wanted to share their thoughts? Just please raise your hand and we can allow you to talk. Okay, Mr. Hall, I see your hand up again. Would you like to share some more thoughts?
Sure, and I won't take the full 3 minutes, and I'll just keep coming in if I can. I have a lot of ideas. But another one is that I've learned that the jail or the programs that we have for the veterans, and I've visited the jail and I've had tours and all, we have, I believe, what's down to a 7% recidivism rate. And for the general population, it's close to 50%. And when you go look at the pods and the, you compare the two, they're completely different. There's a lot of emphasis on serving our veterans, and for good reason. But if we have a program or a set of programs that are working and can reduce recidivism rates to 7%, it seems to me we should be doing that for everybody, not just our veterans. Everybody deserves a chance to get back in the community and be a productive member of society. And if we know ways that work, it seems like we should really be striving to use those tools and those programs and practices. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I see Marissa has her hand raised.
Good evening. My name is Marissa Barond, and I am the Executive Director at McAllister Institute. I've been looking through some of the questions, and we are a current contractor of County Behavioral Health Services. And one of the programs that we offer is the Sobering Services Center, which is a really beautiful collaboration between not just the county, but also the city attorney, the city of San Diego, and law enforcement. And one of the things that we're seeing is that it's incredibly difficult to create a continuum of services wherein the brief interaction that we have with someone who's staying for less than 24 hours has a meaningful way to move on. There are kind of a lack of immediate access to housing. Treatment often there's a high need for withdrawal management, and those services are just really under capacity. And so I think it's really important that we're looking along with the alternatives, what outsource or kind of gateway we're creating to access additional care. And the last little point that I wanted to make is that because the Sobering Center is such a meaningful touch point for right now San Diego Police Department, it would be really great to be able to share some de-identified data with SANDAG, because so many of the people who may have otherwise been booked for a 647F drunk in public or a 11550 under the influence of a narcotic were actually diverted to the sobering center. And so I think when you're looking at the data of where people went instead of being incarcerated, the sobering center is a great place to look into that data, and we're happy to collaborate however we can. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Andrea.
Hi, Cindy. I actually have a question. It was, if I want to make sure I got her name right, Marissa that was just speaking, or was it Melissa? I had a question for her when she brought up the sobering center.
Yeah, Marissa, I believe.
Marissa.
And I think if, since we don't have, a lot of hands raised, is it okay? I think it's okay for us to, can we let two people talk at the same time? Yeah. So if we
I wanted to ask her thoughts on the sobering center in regards to the central sobering center and specifically the aspect of it that's for those who are under the influence of drugs. And I was curious what her thoughts were on the fact that there is only a specific time frame that those individuals who are under the influence can be taken to the sobering center, and whether or not she feels in her experience and in the data that she's maybe reviewed, if she thinks that those hours should be just like the hours that are for those who are drunk in public, which is 24/7.
Sure. Thank you so much for the question. And of course, there's never a particularly easy or straightforward answer. But when we are looking at the sobering center, it's helpful to think about capacity in a much broader sense, because right now the sobering center can technically serve up to 60 individuals at one time. But it is seldom to that capacity, except for maybe on New Year's Eve or other kind of drinking heavy holidays. And so, yes, I think that there is a really great opportunity to open the pleads component up to a 24/7 aspect. And I think one of the biggest benefits to that would be the way that law enforcement is staffed in kind of first watch, second watch, and third watch. Officers are rotating between that. And so once you've done the education to share what this diversion resource is with, say, the first watch, they then switch and kind of are no longer able to use pleads, because now the time that they're on duty is outside of the pleads timing. So yes, I think a 24/7 component would be wonderful. The only caveat that I would add is that it's really important that we again think about where we are diverting the individuals to afterwards, because a lot of services aren't available in the evenings. And so just making sure that there is some sort of partnership or housing component or a low barrier place to send people after they're engaged, especially if it's late at night.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Thank you. I see Ann Barron has her hand raised.
Hi, sorry, it took me a while to figure out how to unmute. Yes, I wanted to tie together two issues that affect, I think, people ending up going to jail in the first place. And one has to do with cop training, police training around de-escalation. I've been at many trolley stops where the escalation begins, oftentimes by law enforcement, where it doesn't have to go that distance. It's particularly for folks who seem to be under some kind of mental stress that escalation can really create, as we saw, for instance, at the La Mesa trolley at the beginning of pandemic. And then that would also connect to also making sure that they get services. We don't typically think of jails as a human health services department, but I think we need to now. And so just to make sure that they're people coming into the jail do get assessed For instance, if they have a mental health crisis, if they're going through that, then they're immediately brought over to a psychiatric ward. This is often done in prisons, and I don't know if it's done in the jail system as well as in the county system as well. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Mr. Hall.
Thank you very much. You know, one of the things that systemically happens is once a person is off paper, you know, they get off probation or they max out and they do their whole sentence and they get back into the community, is we let them go and we never try to learn what they're doing, what's working and what isn't. And I believe that nowadays, since we have mobile phones, that we could be using that technology and ideally incentivizing people on the outside who've made it through the system, and just poll them, you know, once a month or every few weeks. And if they respond, no matter what the response is, we should give them some kind of payment, like a $20 gift card or, but the idea is that, you know, if we put them in programs and services, that's about $20,000 a year. If they go back to prison, it's $80,000 a year. Why not spend a couple $100s a year and find out what they're doing? Are they volunteering in the community? Are they reintegrating with their family? Are they working? Are they going back to school? You know, how are they feeling stress-wise? Are they in therapy? Are they continuing their treatment? You know, there's a number of things we could learn, but we tend to just forget them when they leave. So in order to stop the pipeline of recidivism or recidivists, I think we could do a lot more to learn, you know, what people are doing. And then another benefit is when you learn that information and people are reporting things that might raise flags that they're on a path to recidivizing, we can reach them earlier and hopefully, you know, find a way to incentivize them to come in and get more intensive services and all. So I think this isn't a business gimmick, but we need to use some business logic here. We need that information. That would save the county a lot of money and the state a lot of money. And if we spent a little, it'd be gold. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hall. Okay, I think the next hand raised was Cheryl Canson.
Hi, can you hear me?
We can, thank you.
Hi, thank you. Thank you for listening and caring. I'm Cheryl Canson. I'm San Diego resident. And I'd like to see more collaboration and support from family members, because I have a son incarcerated, two sons incarcerated, suffering with mental illness. And one of the things that happened during COVID was the mental health treatment subsided to the point where they needed to ask for treatment or ask for help if they needed it. And so that's not most likely won't happen, because a lot of people who suffer mental illness aren't aware that they need treatment because they're feeling their norm. They aren't aware that they're not well. And so they need help recognizing that. And I wish there were more peer support and family support partners inside the jails to keep them connected to their mental health, because that was very detrimental that my son wasn't able to keep his therapist that he had built trust with. And during COVID, he disappeared. He was no longer there. So he was left without anyone that he bonded with or trusted. And so he was without mental health treatment, because it was just like, it wasn't connected. He wasn't connected. He wasn't interacting. So it was like null and void. It wasn't working for him. And so that was detrimental for him. And so I wish familial support was more included and collaborated with at times like this, for they won't be left just without support, which is a detrimental place for someone suffering mental illness and during COVID to be in. Yeah, very important, the family bonding. And I wish we could innovate ways to include families as far as collaboration and support for their loved ones incarcerated with mental illness. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I'm so sorry for what your son had to go through with that. And we definitely will make sure that that's a recommendation that gets passed up to the county about the involvement of families. So thank you for coming on and sharing your thoughts with us, Cheryl. We have our interpreter was able to join us. So Carlos, we just promoted him to so he could speak and share some information if anybody would like to access those translation services. Carlos, do you want to speak?
Yes, good morning. Good afternoon. I'm sorry. So as soon as this assignment is over, the interpretation will be started. Once it is started, you will be able to access it through an icon on your Zoom control bar that looks like a little world, and it will say interpretation. And there you would click English as your language in the event that there are any comments from Spanish speakers. Buenas tardes, se está ofreciendo servicio de interpretación simultánea. Después de este aviso se va a activar la función. Una vez que se haga, en la barra de controles de Zoom, donde aparece su micrófono, cámara, etcétera, va a haber un icono de interpretación, parece un globito terráqueo. Le daría clic y selecciona español como su idioma. Si está en la aplicación móvil de Zoom, presionaría los puntos suspensivos, luego interpretación y luego el idioma. Thank you and gracias. And now all we need is for interpretation to be started.
Are we good to do that, Cesar?
I'll handle that, Cindy. Give me a second.
Oh, okay, thank you, Daniel.
Thank you, Daniel. Yep.
Okay, Larry, I believe you're our next speaker, please. Thank you for joining us. Larry, you should be unmuted at our end if you want to share any thoughts you have.
Am I unmuted now?
No, we can hear you now. Thank you.
Oh, great. Thank you very much. Technology. Okay, so I've been working around the community now for about 43 years in San Diego, but we've been working for 20 years in all the institutions, all the way from the juvenile, all the way down. And I was out 2 days yesterday in the state prisons. I work out there every week in the state prison, Calipatria, and then we're going into other ones. But our occupation is to develop programs, and this is alternate to incarceration. So what our plan is we have our nonprofit is Lighthouse Community Development Corporation. We just opened our first office in Casa de Oro, but our plan is to set up vocation trade schools. But we want it'll have a crisis house. So a person who's going through that crisis could wind up staying with us for a year, and then they can come in crisis mode. My wife's a therapist. We have a team of therapists. We have a whole bunch of business professionals. We have great people from the community, everything. We're not asking the county for anything. We're not trying to get their money. We want to take on the problem. We know the money's going to come, that'll come. But the main thing is we're setting up a vocation trade school for the homeless. Or if you find some person out on the street that's having one of those crisis moments, that they could come to us free of charge. Anybody can come. There's not going to be any capacity thing. That's the problem. See, and I've lived in the past, I've been in 53 years. I was one of the persons that you see 53 years ago that you see walking around the street, talking in the air to nothing. That was me, crazy, because I believed that drugs back then was an answer to all every man's problem. So I took it all, the hippie movement. And so the thing is, I came out of that insanity, and I know what's needed because we started ranches and all kinds of places like that. Anybody can come in at any time, no cost. You don't have to go through this check and that test. If you can breathe, you can come in. So it's that kind of, if you're breathing, you're welcome. So the thing is that's what we're looking to do, is set up a place like that, and it'll be a vocation trade school. I've got all the trades, union trades, all kinds of folks that are committed themselves that when you come there, first you get your crisis taken care of, then you can join the community, live there for a year and learn trade. My wife and I used to have a contract for about 3 years with the county, and they asked us for 25. We worked with every seriously mental ill person in all the jail system. We had a team of therapists and ministers working together. They asked us for a 25% reduction. It was studied by San Diego State, did a whole study of and we gave them a 25% reduction in recidivism because we treat people like we want to be treated, and we give them opportunities, and we help them at the gate. We pick them up at the gate. We meet them inside and pick them up at the gate. So we're available. Lighthouse Community Development Corporation is available. What we need right now from the county, if they're listening in, is we need the facility. There are certain facilities we've asked for, and we need those facilities. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Larry. Andrea, I see your hands raised, and I'm guessing you may want to speak with Larry.
Yes, I wanted to ask Larry a question. First of all, Larry, thank you for the work you're doing. Your program sounds wonderful. I'm really glad and happy to hear that that's something that you're working on, and I think you know what you're doing. It sounds like. I just wanted to ask you, do you also treat individuals who have a substance use or alcohol addiction? I know you mentioned the crisis component, but do you also have therapists to address those issues?
Absolutely. The drug counselors. Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, that was me. I was the guy that took every bit of drugs there was. I was shooting it, smoking it, dropping it, going crazy out there. I was one of those guys. So everybody that's now entering into the drug thing out there, their psychosis is happening, all kinds of stuff. It's flipping people out. This stuff, if it isn't killing them, it's flipping them out. So I already know that. That's 100% part of our process.
Sure, absolutely. Well, that's awesome to hear. And my last question, I guess, would be, does your program also offer any sort of like wraparound services? I know you're talking about the vocational trade schools, but if somebody, needs to get their GED or maybe wants higher education or needs a driver's license or needs assistance with getting benefits, is that anything you guys would assist with doing, or would you refer to a service provider?
Well, I've been for a long time. I just haven't been because of Zoom and all that part of this roundtable, the policies and procedures and definitely the IDs. But that's the thing, it's comprehensive. Whatever a person needs, and then we want to have just the regular education, the reading, writing, and arithmetic, but really vocation trades is what we're going to specialize in. Vocation trades, but all those involve reading, writing, and arithmetic.
Right.
If you don't know those things, you're pretty bad at being a carpenter, right? Or you got to know. So that's all part of our components. We're just missing right now the facility to do it. We're working on small housing right now, but we're asking for the county has a big facility. They have one right now that'll house 450 people.
Where is that facility?
Well, that's out in the country. It's a ways out of town. But the problem is, you see, we've already worked out all the details. I have a whole PowerPoint presentation I can present to anybody on it, how it all works. I'm just looking for the right person. We've been knocking on the doors of supervisors and all the different kinds of like that. And so we're doing our part, but I just thought maybe there may be somebody listening in on this call today that would like to, I'm looking for the person who will show up with the keys. We got the answers. They got keys for some properties, and that's what we need right now.
Okay. And my last question, if you could you repeat the name of your program? Lighthouse. I missed it.
We have a Lighthouse Community Development Corporation.
Okay.
It's a CDC. It's our corporation is a California CDC. Our corporation, Lighthouse Community Development Corporation. Then I have another one called Lighthouse Ranch and Farming. So we have two operations like that.
Okay. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Alex, you're going to be next. I just wanted to make sure, Daniel and Carlos, some of us on staff haven't seen the wheel come up with the interpreter, and I'm not sure if it's needed, but we just wanted to make sure that that was taken care of.
Hey, Cindy. Yeah, unfortunately, since it wasn't assigned before this meeting, it wasn't enabled before we started, so we can't add them anymore since the meeting has already started, unfortunately.
Okay. Thank you for trying to log in, Carlos. We'll definitely have the interpreter for the next meeting. But let's go ahead and give Alex a chance to speak. Alex, it's your turn. We're gonna unmute you.
Good evening, everyone. Can you hear me?
We can hear you. Thank you.
Oh, good. Hi, everyone. Alex Macias here, Second Chance. Been working in the reentry world for 13 years now. Really like what Jerry Hall said earlier, just making a comment on the importance. Actually, the lady mentioned it earlier also. I'm a little confused in envisioning what this alternatives to incarceration, how that kind of would happen. But it is key to be one of the lessons. I had the privilege to work in the Reentry Works project, and meeting individuals at certain touch points is key if they establish a relationship, and then to be able to be in that individual as they proceed, right? So I'm not sure if the vision is as an individual's arrested, they go to the jail system, maybe we could have few organizations that are, that really can address some of the immediate needs. I know Bill Payne is on the advisory group, and he has this great validated tool that we can use as a pre, and it assesses different domains across self-sufficiency. I think we need to kind of get to a place where we're all working off of a tool, and we can kind of screen everyone. But it's a huge commitment for a county to work with one tool. But it would really help us in having a baseline to work from. Right now, like Jerry was saying, we don't get the data, we don't know these individuals' history, so we need some type of assessment tool that we can kind of work off of, and then as a county, plot out the organizations that are going to fulfill the needs. And I just feel like that's key in order to drive our decision making. Incentivizing folks, I think you're absolutely on the money, Mr. Hall, with these folks. We're spending $20,000 to send folks to programs, $80,000 to keep them in prison. Why not incentivize folks? All the new drugs, the fentanyl, the creton, all these new things that are happening quickly, we have to be able to be adaptive in our responses. So it is important for us to stay informed and to be able to adapt. These things are happening very quickly. We are talking about low-level offenders. These are individuals who go in and out. So yeah, those are my two key things that I just wanted to comment on. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Alex. Cheryl, I see your hand raised.
I was wondering, is the Lighthouse Community Development Corporation in San Diego or no? Hello?
Yeah,
Oh.
no, I'm not sure. I was just gonna give Larry the ability to, hold on 1 second. I want to make sure that we give the right person. Okay, he can speak now. Okay.
Yeah, our first office we opened is in Casadura. We're just developing that with different services out there, with my wife's therapy. We have all kinds of different things. We have a food distribution. We're just building it right now. It's that particular thing. The office is in Casadura.
Okay, and what was the name of the other one? Was that inpatient or something more inside or?
No, there's Lighthouse Ranch and Farming, but we have the two corporations. But the place that we're asking for is a building that's out there that the county has right now, that if they let it go, it's got a bunch of problems with its infrastructure. But I have a whole team of people that are professionals at that. I got all kinds of professionals that can fix that stuff, and at no cost to the county, we'll fix it. So.
Oh, okay.
So we're still working on our project.
Great,
It's
thank you.
In motion.
Thank you for doing that.
Thank you.
No, it's not easy.
Patience. Thank you.
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you all. This has been a great dialogue so far. I don't see any other hands raised. Would anybody else like to share any thoughts or have any questions, since we do have some county staff on here? Anne? Anne, you should be unmuted.
Yes. You can hear me now?
We can hear you now. Thank you.
Sorry about that. So yeah, I was curious about, as we think about the county jail system, and I'm also thinking about juvenile hall, what's our intent? What are we trying to do with the youth and the people who are kept inside? Are we looking to and I'm looking for, are we looking to rehabilitate? Are we looking to punish? To keep them separate? I'm really curious about what the county's intent is.
I can just speak from the perspective of knowing that they put their support behind this project. And Andrea, I don't know if you want to share some more thoughts too, since you were involved in this before Sandag was connected with this effort. The impetus for the project really came from District 3 with the county, where they saw the decreased number of individuals being booked and really saw it as an opportunity to say, can we change how we're doing things? I've been doing this research since the early 1990s, and we've seen revolving doors. We know that there's underlying needs that need to be addressed. We do interviews in the jails with individuals who have been through the system a lot and see how many report that they have mental health issues, history of homelessness. Over half of the adult males booked last year were positive for meth alone, not counting other substances that might be out there. So I think that, there's so many opportunities here to figure out how are we addressing things for individuals who've already come into contact with the system, but then the whole prevention piece is a whole other thing of how do we make it so that we're not dealing with a lot of these issues before somebody does get to jail. But that's really just my experience from doing this research for so long. Andrea, I don't want to put you on the spot, but I don't know if you want to share anything else from your communications with the board offices or the public safety group.
Sure. I might need her to re-ask her question, but I think that, for those who are incarcerated, I think what we're hoping to create is opportunities while incarcerated to prepare men and women for reentry. And then when they reenter society, we also want to make sure that we have services available and opportunities available for people to be successful when they're reentering. I'm not sure if that's answering your question, though, so maybe if you want to re-ask it, or I was a little confused about are you asking what's the county proposing to do with? Yeah, I guess I would just need you to re-ask the question.
Well, I think you answered it, because it really was looking at the philosophy and the psychology behind what we want to do with folks in jail. And so, people put into jail is such an interesting concept, right? Because it could actually be a place where social services are offered, or it could be a place where you are punished until you go crazy. And too often in the United States, it's the latter, right?
Sure.
Cheryl and I actually did a tour of some of the jails and prisons in San Diego on Human Rights Day using our cameras, and just were shocked at where the juvenile hall is set up. Far, far, far away. It's like throwing away young people, and the message to them is you are completely separated from the rest of society. You have no chance. You have to do what we tell you to do. It was scary, actually. I just want to throw that out there. So how we design, as we think about, getting people out and alternative methods, also how we design the jails and the prisons speak to the function of the jails and prisons. So they do need to be redesigned. And I do love the idea that one of the gentlemen was speaking about, where we do have these multiple modes of almost like I don't want to use the, all right, I'm not going to use this word because it'll give the wrong impression, but they do this in Norway, where the jails and prisons really reflect a cohesive sense of neighborness, that you're living together. You're not being separated from the rest of society, but in fact, you're living together with other people. And it does a lot to lift the abilities of folks to find a different way, to find a different path. So I just wanted to share that.
I think that would be ideal. I think, you know, one of the adult facilities, the East Mesa facility, is really a reentry facility that has a lot of great benefits and programs for men who are incarcerated there. And it would be nice if all the jails were like that, and that it could feel more like community. I think there has to also be, though, in some ways, a different, I think the community as a whole has to have a different look through a different lens when we're talking about this group of individuals who may have committed a crime. And I think what sometimes people forget is that they've paid their debt, they've served their time at some point, and that's why it's important now to make sure that there are services and opportunities in place so that they don't reoffend, they don't recidivate. Because for some people, you mentioned earlier, is this for punishment? And for some people, their perspective and their view is that is what jail is for, and that's what it should be for. And, you know, they don't necessarily see the benefits in having all the opportunities that we're discussing here. So I also think that our entire community has to be educated on the benefits of what, you know, reentry services and programs, what that can do for an individual and how it can truly change the trajectory of their life and what they choose to do.
Thank you, Anne, and thank you, Andrea. I see Jerry, your hand raised.
Hi, thank you, Dr. Berg. The last speaker just reminded me of something, and that is that we're, you know, when I went through the downtown county jail, there's little windows that are about 4 inches wide and about 3 foot tall, but most of them are opaque. So the guys inside can't even see outside. And I worry that we don't have an outside recreation for them. So these guys might be locked up downtown for extended stays. We're allowed to keep people, I think, up to 3 years in jail. I don't know if they use downtown for that as much. But the point is that, you know, when somebody's in our care, it seems that we're overly conscientious about punishing them. And I really believe that, and speaking from lived experience, because I was facing 4 years in prison, I ended up going to a treatment center, and I've been clean and sober ever since, over 35 years, and it worked for me. But I know a lot of people it hasn't, and a lot of people, I do believe, need to be sitting in jail for the violent stuff they've done. And so there are people that need punishment, but we don't have to be sadistic about it. You know, I think we have to be more conscientious that, you know, these are human beings that need to be helped and not encouraged to come back. And we know that doesn't work. The other problem is when there's, you know, 6,000 and now 3,700 people in our jails, that's a huge drop, and that threatens the employment of a lot of deputies that are working at the jails. And my concern is that we need to find something productive to be doing with these guys and men and women that are, you know, chose a career path of public safety, but whose job might be threatened because the demand is greatly reducing. So we can't, you know, we're obviously not answering the call to keep people employed, but what is the situation here when, you know, your population drops in half? Do you need as many guards? And it's obvious that you don't, but how do you reconcile that? You know, how do we not be threatening these guys' careers, these people's careers and which really de-incentivizes them to participate in programs that we're talking about. So thank you.
Thank you. I see Marissa is next, and then after that, Larry.
Hi there. It's really interesting when we look at numbers about a decrease in incarceration, but it's important to note too that there were over 1,000 individuals who were diverted to the sobering center. And I think one of the things that if I just had to read my crystal ball about some of the findings from the SANDAG survey that was done, it was a lot about perception of crime. And I think one of the things that we're hearing a lot from the community is that there's just really flagrant drug use, and that people have kind of gotten to a point of just being out in the community and having no intervention whatsoever. And so I think it's really important that as we're designing some sort of alternative to incarceration, that it doesn't overly swing the pendulum to carrot or to stick, and that we start to look at really creative models like progressive sentencing, where the sobering center component for alcohol does have an ability to escalate to the serial inebriate program, which is still treatment, but along the way, it is collaborating really closely with enforcement, with prosecution, and saying, first offense, great, keep coming back, we're here for you. Second offense, but then kind of elevating it to once someone's arrived 4 times in 30 days, obviously the offer of help alone is not going to move the needle. And so how can we work with the justice system to create kind of an escalated intervention? Because I think so much of what we're hearing from some of the other speakers is that jail alone is not a rehabilitation, but doing nothing is also having an impact on the community, and the people who are left to suffer are those who are suffering. And so again, just making sure that any interventions we come up with don't swing too heavily in the way of a stick or a carrot, and that we're looking at kind of in between roads.
Great, thank you so much, Marissa. I think those were some great points. Larry, and then Ann.
Yeah, so those great points there. For quite a number of years, I've been on the previous board of the chief of probation, Adolfo Gonzalez, and his work here created that whole new, if you ever been up and seen the new juvenile hall up there and everything, where he shut down the camps and brought them all in. And you'll see that there's very few youngsters over there because they did the alternate to incarceration. They were sending them home. They tried not to lock them up in there. They would put an ankle bracelet and send them home. They would work with the POs now having to put the work in. And so that was a really successful thing. And then they went over there and changed the whole inside of the place. They took the cell doors and made double doors on them to where they would open on the top there. They made a day room, and Adolfo said, I want this place to be like around my house where my kids sit around. So there was fruit in a bowl. And he said, he checked out the food and he said, oh, this food here, my kids wouldn't eat it. So change the whole menu, So he went over there. That's Adolfo Gonzalez, who just got, he got hired to go up. He's now in LA. He's chief of probation up there, but he had all those innovative ways. I'm a deputy sheriff myself. I'm a honorary deputy sheriff. And so I know that those deputies, there's all kinds of work to be done in the community. So they don't have to be down there. They can be out in the community working. I know there's lots of work to be done out in the community. So there's always a job going to be for those deputies. And so that's the thing. But will San Diego let the community come and begin to address these things? Will they get out of the way and let the community come in and do it? And just like I said, just give me one of your buildings, or I'll buy the thing. Give me a thing to buy the building, and we'll buy the building from it. We don't even want it free. We'll buy the building. There's just certain buildings that are set up for this kind of thing. And so give us the opportunity to buy it. We'll pay for it. So you'll be profitable in that end. So, but let us address the problem, because we live out here. If you just take charge over it and only the people in the government addressing it, then a lot of times that's what you're going to get is limited success. We live here. Thank you.
Thank you, Larry. Anne.
Hey, I was really triggered's not the right word, stimulated by some of the previous comments. And, as we think about that's why I ask about the purpose of jail and the purpose of prison. Is it just a way station, or is there really meant for serious work to be done with individuals? And again, recognizing that not everyone in jail or prison actually belongs there. So I'm wondering if really the prison system and the jail system belong under the Health and Human Services Department to take a broader, more complex view of folks and how they interact. And I look at Norway, I mentioned that earlier, just how they set up the living quarters. And I look also here in the United States, there was a project that's still going on. It's part of the Alternatives to Violence. And it's more using conversation and building camaraderie and human acknowledgement of each other. And these programs have been, I don't even want to call them programs, but these efforts have been shown to really help folks going through what they're going through in prison, in jail, and help reevaluate. At the same time, of course, you also need the services for perhaps retraining, emotional support. All those things have to come together, which is why I'm wondering now, really, doesn't this need to belong under Health and Human Services? Because it's a very complex, humans are complex, so it's not, just punishing someone is not going to work. So how do we rethink our jails and our prisons to build in more of this human need for socializing and being together and talking to one another, and providing some of the resources that may be needed when they come back into the real world?
Thank you so much. Okay, we're about 6:35. We are scheduled till 7. So if there's anybody else still on the call who would like to share any thoughts or feedback. Nobody else? Okay, thank you, Cheryl. I don't want to keep people just sitting here in an awkward silence, but I don't want to make everybody just sit around either if there's no input. So thank you. What would you like to share? We can't hear you yet, Cheryl. I'm not sure if you're muted at your end.
Okay, hear me now?
We can, thank you.
I'm not sure if people are aware that our mental health staff that we are expected to provide mental health treatment in our jails and prisons are, first of all, police officers. Their first objective and their first duty is to be a police officer. That's their first line of duty. And I feel like people who provide, the skilled professionals who provide the mental health treatment should be more of mental health professionals kind of geared and passionate towards providing mental health care to people suffering serious mental illness like bipolar, schizophrenia with bouts of psychosis. Because I was told by one nurse that helped my son that she could see that my son needed some extra attention, but that she was, one reason why she left was she was hurried along. She wasn't allowed to, and was scolded if she tried to provide extra attention when she saw that a residents needed it. So I feel like there needs to be like a passion towards providing mental health services, or else if you're a police officer first, you're going to punish first, and you're abiding by the prison infrastructure to punish and try to gain compliance by punishing and isolating people from the rest of the population in prisons. I just wanted to bring that to light. And my son suffered, I want to say, because he wasn't allowed to get that extra attention, and his mental health, his mental wellness has declined since COVID and continues to decline because he was never allowed to be protected by that incompetence to stand trial plea in the beginning when he first initially was arrested. Thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing. Would anybody else like to speak or speak again? Patrick, I see your hand raised. Thank you for joining us, Patrick.
How are you doing? So I would like to, I am a good friend of Cheryl who just spoke, and just so happened she had invited me to the meeting. And I was going through your questionnaire because I didn't think I was going to be able to catch the meeting, but I decided to go ahead and see if I can chime in. I kind of want to kind of piggyback on what Cheryl's saying. As me as a person, I've been in advocacy in the field as a mental health and substance abuse counselor for over 18 to 19 years now. One of the things I'm finding that's really becoming a challenge is the way that the bureaucracies are conducted in regards to individuals. That meaning that the confidentiality clause always seems to fall in place as to where we can't address what's really going on with the individual or individuals. In this instance, I'm a consultant working with the CJS. And one of the things that was happening when I was doing a questionnaire that I was allowed to petition was that I could never get into a facility to talk to any of these individuals or people that were going through these problems within the MAT programs, are needing assistance, or that most of their family members, like Cheryl's one, that she called me in the middle of the night one night, and her son was having issues in the state penitentiary, in which he was sent there from the county of San Diego. And some of the things that he was facing or dealing with should have been addressed here in the county. Now, I know that they're working on these issues now, but these are still going to be things that are going to continue to happen upon entry into incarceration and reentry back into the community. And we have to address these situations. And I'm so glad that there now is a so-called, we're having these formal meetings and things like this to discuss this. I would also say that we know that the peer support specialists or the peer support groups or the peer support person needs to be embedded in the county jails, also need to be embedded in our prison systems like Donovan here in the county of San Diego. Because why? Most of the time, we already know some of those issues those individuals are going through, so they'll be feeling more comfortable to talk about what's going on with them than just having anybody ask them a question or asking them questions in the sense of, you know, what's going on with them in life. Most of this is dealing with traumatic experiences. Most of the individuals that are caught up on addictions have clients that have been on fentanyl and continue to go into ER because they are allowed, the harm reduction clause falls in place. So you really can't address them as a counselor to try to save them from themselves, because harm reduction, all we're doing is basically saving them until they take that last shot or that last drug, and then they pass away, which I think is very unfortunate, especially as far as me being a counselor who really would love to see people live than to die. And so these are the challenges we face. The mental health issues are really facing a lot of our people now because of the pandemic. That's caused a lot of things. People don't have jobs. People are caught up on drugs. Some people are turning to self-medicating, and they're getting drugs that are laced. It's no longer just like MAT services can deal with heroin addiction, maybe fentanyl addiction, depending on what the client or the patient is saying. But what's happening is all these drugs, these street drugs are being laced with fentanyl. So they don't know what they're taking anymore. And 9 times out of 10, most of them are taking 5 or 6 different drugs that have fentanyl laced capabilities to it. So it's a real challenge. And I know that we're going to have to get very educated about who's coming into these incarceration settings and how we're going to best address them, and not to be punitive. That means those people who aren't sensitive or compassionate need not be in the field. There need to be a way to clear and find out if we have the right staff that is dealing with these situations. Otherwise, you're going to continue to have people who are dying behind bars because they're not receiving the right compassion or the right medical staff, and someone's taking it upon themselves just to see them as throwaway people, and that's just so unfair. So I just want to let you all know that me being on the professional side, that I'm hearing and understanding what's going on, and I'm trying to be assistance on both sides of the table here. But as a counselor, I've seen it all, and I know it all in a sense, because I am the front line of all those problems that are happening before they even get to county jail. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much, Patrick. I don't see any other hands raised, so I'm just gonna repeat the questions again to see if it triggers anybody else wanting to give any feedback about gaps in services, barriers to receiving services in the community, how we encourage treatment when it might not be court ordered, any concerns about public safety, policies or programs that are working, either in San Diego County or elsewhere. I see Andrea, one of our advisory group members, raising your hands. Thank you for joining us, Andrea.
Absolutely, and good evening, everyone. Thank you all so much for joining this forum and providing your feedback. We really, truly appreciate it. I've mostly just been listening in, listening attentively and taking notes. As the gaps of services have come up, I just want to provide this very specific feedback. And I know that we have a couple of community members on tonight whose family members have been struggling with serious mental illness and possibly co-occurring substance use disorders while being incarcerated and before and thereafter. And so one of the critical gaps we have as far as treatment capacity in our county are residential treatment centers or programs that can accommodate individuals who are high on mental health, but are also high on substance use. And we have a whole variety of great programs in the community that can work with individuals that have varying levels of need as far as mental health and substance use is concerned, but we really don't have any residential options for individuals that live with a serious mental illness such as bipolar disorder, major depression, for example, schizophrenia, but who also have a strong substance use disorder. And that is definitely a gap in our service landscape here in San Diego. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Andrea. Did anybody else want to share anything? Miles.
Yeah, Miles, can you hear me?
We can. Thank you for joining us, Miles.
Yeah, so San Diego resident, just been listening, taking notes. Really appreciate Anne speaking up to mention, what's the purpose of incarceration, and that documentary, Where to Invade Next by Michael Moore is fantastic. I really like that we're talking about, rethinking, do we want a punishment system, or do we want a justice system, or do we want, something that is trying to actually improve people's lives versus punish them? So I guess I really wanted to talk about that, the question of how can we encourage treatment that is voluntary? And I think the biggest piece is to improve the treatments themselves. A lot of times treatment is coupled with a specific faith tradition, or it's coupled with required complete sobriety. And there's alternative, therapies out there that they're becoming more evidence-based and supported, like contingency management versus forced detox and sobriety. So I'm curious if, I'm not all that familiar with all of the programs in San Diego, as I'm a relatively newer resident, but do we have any contingency management based treatment programs? And, is that something that we've even considered, or does it exist here? I guess just overall, to add on to that, I would just want whatever our treatments to be evidence-based, but I'd also like our drug policies to be evidence-based. I heard somebody mention kratom earlier today, and I actually see it as a kind of a public shame that San Diego is one of the only counties in the entire country to make kratom illegal, when there seems to be growing evidence that it actually helps people get off of harder opiates like fentanyl. It helps people with their management of their substance use disorders. And mitragynine, the active component in it, doesn't cause respiratory depression. So I think there's a big lack of knowledge when it comes to a lot of these drugs, not just in the users, but also in our policymakers and just the general public at large. And yeah, that's about all I had to say. So
thank you so much. Patrick. You should be unmuted, Patrick. I'm not sure if you're okay to speak.
All right. So as I was saying, is that I wanted to be able to address the 6 questions that you did have. Shoot, I got lost here. Hold on. Okay, here we go. So the 6 questions you did have that I was going to address is, 1, what are the greatest gaps in services in your community? And so I thought knowledge and education in the community regarding MAC services and peer support would be one of the things that really need to be addressed and that we need to have gone through our communities. A lot of our communities are not familiar with places like Euclid Methadone Clinic. There's one out in Fashion Valley and things like that. And I think these places are just there that the person that's addicted or the person that's being referred knows where that place is, but the community really doesn't know. And if they do, they kind of see it as a thing where it's just drug addicts hanging out, and the community's not being educated as to why these places are there and why they should be there. And again, I think what comes up is the confidentiality clause. I'm not sure, but I think one of the things we have to do is really get the community on board for anything that we're doing to assist them with the problems of addiction in their communities. What are the barriers to receiving services in your community? I would say by allowing outside community advocacy, peer support groups to into new ways to address their addiction. So that means that by allowing us to be embedded or to be there just like any other staffing that may be inside of the jailhouse or at Donovan Prison or whatever, that we're there to be able to talk to these individuals, especially when they've been diagnosed or that they find that they do have, but they come in with addiction or they're coming down or, things are going on with them, that we're able to be there to help them to get through the issue of the incarceration or their jail time. 3, excuse me, sorry about that. 3, how can we encourage treatment that is voluntary as opposed to court ordered? I would say that the overuse of punitive measures for those seeking help for substance use disorder addiction by the medical staff, police and jailers of county jails and prison staff. And I think someone talked on the compassionate side that we have to have people who can be in those positions to hear these people out that are screaming for help. Now that they're kind of like being, they're being locked up or they've been placed in a jailhouse setting or they're going to be doing prison time or whatever, that we start that conversation now, because most of them, we already know how they got there. We know that drugs 9 times out of 10 is what got them caught up and what got them arrested. So we need to have people there who can hear them out and find out what's been going on, what's traumatizing them to the point that they have to continue to get recidivism in their life and continue to catch time. 4, what are the greatest public safety concerns in the community and why? I would say that, and I think I messed this one up. I think you were talking about other places, and I'm sorry, I got the question messed up. So I think this one's in regards to places that have worked are places that are out there that help individuals. And I think that I come across a couple in my work. Second Chance in Southeast San Diego does a good job of trying to help these individuals who are caught up to get a second chance at life, also giving them alcohol and drug treatment while they're there. Residential treatment programs such as Transitions. I know that they do that type of thing with the individuals that they get to who live there, and basically they're allowed to stay there as long as they're working and that they're trying to get their lives back in order. And I think places like that should be supported to help these individuals who are caught up on an addiction behavior and need another way of looking at life other than going right back out and get caught up in drug use and then going right back to jail. So we'll go to number 5. Do you know of any policy programs or effect? I think that's the one I just answered. And then number 6, what is working well in terms of public safety systems and services delivery that you would like to know? And I would say again, me being a peer support specialist and also being a part of different programs that work with individuals, peer support programs, embedded peer support should be in every level of counseling. The mass incarceration services, criminal justice system needs to have them upon entry and when the reentry of the community, that this is important that they have peers amongst those levels who can help these people to navigate and to steer them in the right direction. And thank you for your time.
Thank you, Patrick. Do we have anybody else who'd like to share any other thoughts? Okay, if everybody feels like they've had a chance to share their thoughts, our next forum, in case anybody would like to join us again, is currently scheduled for next Wednesday, June 29th, 5:30 to 7:15. If anybody has any feedback on how this forum has gone, we really appreciate you taking the time to participate. We're trying to, give a chance for anybody to share any thoughts that they have or questions. And again, focused on those other areas. But if you'd like to join us again, we'd love to have any more feedback, or if you had feedback on how tonight went. But thank you. We know people are busy and it's summer. Yes, I see Anne's hand raised.
Hi, yeah, I was wondering how you were advertising this. I actually heard about it because I just happened to read what my supervisor put out in his report of the county. But I'm very active in criminal justice stuff and hadn't seen it anywhere else. So I was wondering how and where you're advertising. And also including, there's something like 33 different languages in City Heights alone. And we're very engaged in City Heights. I'm with the Peace Resource Center. We're very engaged with the youth in City Heights who feel that they are over-policed. So I was wondering also what other languages you provide in addition to Spanish. And thank you for the Spanish translation.
Thank you. So since this project has started, we have an ATI email group as well as a SANDAG distribution group. We asked our advisory group members to help share information about this through their channels that include the reentry roundtable. And as Bill Payne is on Second Chance, so a lot of different groups out that way. The county has been requested to help us get this out through their working groups and email distribution lists. So I'm not sure, Andrew, if you can share anything about how that was done. But if you have other ideas of how we can do that, we also did it on social media, and we were able to got picked up by NBC San Diego, which shared some information about it in last night's and this morning's news story. In terms of languages, we do have the flyer and the in English and Spanish, and we did put on the flyer that we were supposed to have Spanish translation available automatically in other languages upon request, but we did not get any other requests. So just trying to balance making sure it's out there also with just the resources that we have for the project. Andrea, did you want to share anything else about how we're getting the word out?
Sure, I was just gonna say that through the ATI, and I don't know if Cindy or if you already said what it was, ATI Alternatives to Incarceration, we have a working group made up of county partners who have lots of different connections to various agencies, groups, advocates, persons with lived experience. So we not only do we ask the advisory group members, but we've asked the working group members to forward on the information. The information was also sent or was also placed in the newsletter that Office of Homeless Solutions puts out weekly. It was then, of course, the board offices. We asked them to put it in their newsletter. We also forwarded the information onto the county libraries and parks and recreations. And we also had it forwarded through the Prop 47 grant local advisory committee, which is also made up of persons who work in the reentry field and other advocates and county partners. And we also sent it to a justice enhancement treatment group, which is made up of several different county funded providers and other county staff who we also asked to participate, but also forward on. So we've tried to get it out as many avenues as we can, along with social media, like Cindy said. But of course, we're always open to other ideas, and we're also hoping word of mouth happens as well.
Yeah, if you could do some local advertisements, for instance, the Reader, Azalea Park has its own. I mean, a lot of the neighborhoods in San Diego have their own local newspaper. So when we advertise our events in the Reader, we always get folks that we've never really seen before, which is cool. That's what we want. Yeah, I was just puzzled because I am connected to a lot of those, or some of those groups that you mentioned, and really it was through my county supervisor I found out about today, which I'm grateful for. Thank you for today.
Thank you. Okay, well, if you all can continue to help us get this word out about this, we'll look into additional ways to get the word out, and definitely would like to see some new faces when we do this again. That's why we're doing this 4 times, just trying to make sure. I know summer can be tough, so we were trying to do it over a 3-week period in case people are on vacation or there's different days of the week that didn't work. So our next one will be a Wednesday. We'll be doing also a Tuesday at night, and then a Thursday, and then around lunchtime. So thank you again, everybody. And if you would like to be added to the ATI mailing list, if you could just send an email to atistudy@sandag.org, ATI study, STUDY @sandag.org. We'd be happy to get you on that list. I'm not sure if with the list of attendees, if we have emails here, if people would like to be added, but it's probably better if we don't want to put people on a mailing list that don't want to be on it. So please let us know if you'd like to be added. Okay, have a great night, everybody. Thank you.